The Subaru Brat is one of the most interesting vehicles to ever be brought to American shores from the Japanese market. And today we are going to take a look at this one, and I have brought along a little bit of help in the name of Andre, our truck professional, because, well, this is a truck, and we are also going to go take it out for a spin, but take it away, Andre.
Thanks for inviting me, Brandon. I was expecting something bigger and burlier, but actually I have a soft spot for this because it's a mini, tiny truck that's actually a segment that's becoming more and more popular right now. What we have here is a 1979 Subaru Brat, and these were imported to the US between 1978 and 1987. So this is an early first generation example. It's four-wheel drive. It's got a truck topper on the back, and I'm really excited for this video. Hey, look at us.
It's like we're friends or something.
We're in the Brat.
Yeah.
All right, let's back up. We're at Tumbleweed Range. And let's go for a drive, because this is all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah, so it is a part-time all-wheel drive vehicle, right? Because it does have this little switch here that you can engage the four-wheel drive. We're just in... Oh, did you kill it?
I would say a lever.
A lever.
A lever.
Okay, a lever.
So, by the way, we are in, what is it called? The bomb cyclone, storm, cold, vortex,
whatever.
Polar. I swear I know how to drive.
Yes, it is cold and about to get much colder. So this
engine
vehicle is not very happy.
It's cold-blooded.
Yeah, it just died.
No,
no, it stayed running.
If I give it too much accelerator, it's not happy right now.
Okay.
And we actually warmed it up a little bit.
A little bit. We tried to. Yeah. I mean, I think the choke on this doesn't work properly, so we just kind of have to massage the throttle a little bit to get it to start. But
now we're in business.
Yeah. Once it's warmed up, this thing actually runs really well.
But it is super cold. Of course, there's nothing. It wasn't turbocharged. Like modern vehicles may have been.
I think, honestly, they did offer a turbo version called the GL, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know if we got that here in the States. Maybe you guys in the comment section below can let us know, because I certainly have never seen one, so maybe that's just kind of like a European and Australian thing. But
yeah, because it was sold in some countries, not Japan, but some other countries.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was sold in every country pretty much across the world except for Japan, because there really just was no demand for these in Japan.
Or maybe the K trucks in Japan. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
that was rutted out.
Yeah, our road here is a little bit rutted out for sure, so it bottomed out in the middle. But yeah, I think that's an interesting piece of history, is the fact that Subaru made this kind of like just for us. It makes us feel a little special. So some of you may be wondering where that Brat name came from, and well, it was a little bit of their marketing department who, I guess they were a little wordy at the time, because they wanted to call it the Bi-Drive Recreational All-Terrain Transporter at the time, which is just kind of a silly mouthful, but if you break it down to those four words right there, that creates the Brat. And well, they also didn't really want to call this a truck, at least here in North America. We'll get to that reason exactly why later, but on paper here in the United States, they called this a light-duty, all-wheel drive, coupe utility version of the Subaru Leon wagon, which, I mean, it's a truck. It's a truck with all-wheel drive, and they call it the Brat, and it's cool.
That's a lot of mumbo-jumbo, but let's get to the basics, because when you're talking about a pickup, a little baby one, you have to talk about power and capability. So let's look underneath the hood, because I did want to show you the spare tire. Bam, there it is. Well, this is an odd place for a spare tire, but actually some older Soviet vehicles and European vehicles actually went this direction. I guess you want to keep your tire warm. But underneath the hood is 1.6 liter, 1600 cc boxer 4-cylinder engine that had a rating in 1979 of 67 horsepower and 81 pound-feet of torque. It's made it to a 4-speed manual transmission. Those are small numbers. Everything about this vehicle is small, including the 13-inch wheel, this beefy tire. By the way, this is made in Japan. This could be an original, could be priceless. But I want to show you one more thing. It's the sticker in the door. I will never understand why they painted it this way or why they bedlined the entire thing, but it's kind of tough. Here's what I wanted to show you. This was built in May of 1979 by Fuji Heavy Industries, of course, but the gross vehicle weight rating is 3,155 pounds. That's basically the vehicle plus everything in it could weigh that much. For maximum capability. We don't have the weight on this guy, the way it sits, so we don't know how much payload it has, but it does have a hitch. We also don't know how much it tows, but my guess it's not very much, but it does have four-wheel drive. So you were telling me that originally, because this is the first gen, it had a single speed transfer case, which means like no low range gearing, which is what we have here, except first gear is relatively low. Yeah. So it's okay. So let me,
gosh, are we going in the pit?
Yeah. What were you thinking we're gonna do?
I don't know. This thing's got pretty low ground clearance. We can barely go over a rock.
It's okay. So this four-wheel drive system though, it's actually really interesting because there's a little sign here. It says, do not use four-wheel drive over 80 kph or 50 miles per hour.
Okay.
And do not shift drive selector while cornering.
So is this like, is it like only 4 low then? Or is it like a 4 high?
So it's really for situations like this, when you're in Andre's pit.
Okay.
And you're climbing, wow, that looks scary.
It looks pretty big when you're in a tiny little truck like this.
Okay, let me turn around. And without four-wheel drive, and then we'll climb out of here with four-wheel drive. How about that?
Sure, that sounds good to me. But yeah, I think from what I was reading, in the later models, like starting in 1981, they did offer a 2-range transfer case.
Or 2-speed.
Or 2-speed transfer case with this. So you could, what would that mean?
Well, that means you can crawl slower, basically. Okay. Like a Jeep Wrangler would have a low range and a high range four-wheel drive. So it was something similar to that, I'm assuming. Well, let me throw it. Pull the lever.
So is that in 4? Does it give you an indicator?
Yeah, there's a little green light that you can never see.
Okay, nice.
And then,
oh,
yes, we're climbing.
It's like a little mule. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I really love the simplicity of this. You know, that's the reason why you still see so many of these around. I mean, granted, Rust took a lot of these, right? Yeah. But the ones that haven't been taken by Rust, like this one, they still run great because they're just stupid, simple machines that really just doesn't have a lot that can break on them. And so they just keep running, and they're super cheap to keep running. So you may be wondering how we ended up with this vehicle here in North America. And well, the interesting part is actually the then president of Subaru North America asked Subaru to build this. Because if you look back to the late 70s, small trucks were all the rage when the gas prices were high. I mean, we're talking the Chevy Love, we're talking Ford had a version of it, and then the Dodge Ram 50 as well, and they were all built on Japanese small pickup trucks. And so they wanted one here to compete in the market. But the cool thing about the Brat versus all of those is the fact that this came with four-wheel drive as standard, whereas on all the rest of them, it was just an option.
Take a look at this. This topper is actually a Subaru genuine accessory by Snugtop, and it's very handy. Look, even after all these years, this stays up. And now this is where it gets interesting. Come inside, join me. This was a truck, technically, because there was something called the chicken tax. I don't fit very well. But the chicken tax basically was an import tax that was a retaliation against other countries, mainly Europe. But it prevented little utility vehicles that are made outside of North America or United States from being imported into United States. As such, they came up with a solution. They added these seats that somebody once again painted, and also added these seat belts that actually made it a passenger car, which means the import tax went from 25% to 2.5%. I'm still not fitting, but it allowed Subaru to actually sell it here.
Now the interior on these is, well, it's fairly cramped, but it's really not as bad as you think. I'm a kind of a bigger guy, and I actually think I fit okay in here. Now, this seat is all the way back up against that, which you may hear a little bit of farty noises, and that's simply because it's rubbing up against the back wall here. But I do have enough room to stretch my legs completely out at 5'9". And I will say, I really dig this old classic interior. I mean, look at these seats. I don't know for certain that these are factory, but they kind of look like it. I mean, at least they've been in here a while, considering they've got little rips and tears on them. But the rest of this is very basic and very square. I mean, you have your traditional glove box that just flops open like a lot of the other 70s glove boxes of the time. And then I think what else is interesting is you have your ashtray up here on the top. It's just kind of an interesting placement of it up there. And then you just have some basic sliders for your HVAC, a very simple instrument cluster, and some fake looking wood around the outside of it. But my favorite part has to be the fact that it's got this 4-speed manual transmission, which I think looks fantastic. And then this is how you switch into the all-wheel drive.
I'm in 2-wheel drive, and I'm in first gear.
Yeah, we're just spinning our tires. It's not going to do a whole lot of anything.
Okay, now.
Okay.
Down, and it's pretty easy actually.
Yeah, it is.
4-wheel drive light comes on.
Oh, look at that. Didn't even spin at all.
No.
Although, there's one thing that concerns me, Andre.
Wait, what? Did you just take my ignition key out?
Yeah, it's still running. I think our ignition's a little bit worn out. You could probably start this with just about anything that fits in that hole.
Please don't tell them this.
Well, what do you think, Andre?
I love it.
I kind of dig this too. It's just a good little car. Truck. It's a truck, right?
I'm sorry for touching your knee.
It's okay.
I'm shifting.
We're just getting a little bit closer here.
No, I did turn with 4-wheel drive on. What does that mean?
Well, now the truck's ruined.
So it's not the most sophisticated 4-wheel drive system.
So the Subaru Brat was relatively successful here in the US. In fact, over its lifespan, they sold roughly 100,000 of these. And that's why, even though these are a pretty darn old vehicle nowadays, you can still find these out on the road. Now, granted, you know, the cheap ones are gonna be pretty darn rusted out and pretty darn rough, but you can get a cheap one for like a few $1,000s. And the nice thing is even a nice running example like this one, well, with its rhino-lined exterior, I don't know that I would call it nice. We'll just say good running example. This was $5,000, and that is all we spent on it. Now, sure, you can find some like pristine, super nice ones that you'll only ever keep in your garage, and those are gonna go for over $20,000. So it's really anyone's kind of budget can afford one of these. Just depends on if you got your latest tetanus shots on those cheap ones, for sure. But either way, I think it's an interesting truck. I think that it's a really cool piece of history, and that it's something that's really unique to drive on today's roads. And I think if you haven't had the opportunity to check one out, you certainly should. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Brendan, and of course, Andre's help with this. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.